Giuseppe Sciortino. He's a migration specialist and a professor of sociology at the University of Toronto. Thank you so much for being with us on the program, Professor. Now, as we know, the longer it takes for the EU to come to a consensus, the more people are going to die making the trip to Europe. Why has it been difficult for the bloc to mutually agree on a migration policy?
Well, there are many reasons, and in general, European migration policy is a very tricky deal and takes always a long time. I mean, this is not the first time. All major changes have taken years. But now the problem is probably deeper for two reasons. One is that there is clearly a conflict of interest between countries having external borders like Greece, Italy, or Spain, and countries having only internal borders. Because if European rules are followed, all these refugees would have to stay in countries with external borders, which would be very unfair on a side. Second, migrants usually want to cross the countries with external borders, but they want actually to live in Northern Europe. So there is a clash also between what the states are supposed to do and what the refugees actually want to. On top of this, in recent years, there has been the issue of instrumentalization, as they call it now, which means the use of refugees as a geopolitical weapon. This is what the dictator of Belarus did not so long ago, as you probably remember. And so the issue has become also a matter of international affairs and geopolitics. How to avoid that having a humanitarian regime for refugees becomes actually a weakness on the face of dictators, neighboring dictators wanting to exploit that. And This is a real serious issue, which is new because, it wasn't so important a few years ago. But after Morocco a few years ago and Belarus, it has become very urgent.
Right, indeed. And in the last round of talks, Germany and Italy had disagreements. Both countries do have parliamentary elections coming up next year. So this issue carries political weight for them as well, doesn't it?
Well, Italy actually has just elected a government not so much time ago. It's more Germany, which is very close. But Italy and Germany have also serious issues with the fact that they are receiving quite a great number of refugees. It shouldn't be forgotten that Italy and Germany are actually some of the migration magnet of the European Union. And in some way, both countries fears that the other is basically playing against the other interests. And that's the issue.
Right, and the EU, as we know, has come under fire by human rights groups for how it's dealing with the crisis, most recently for the deal it made with Tunisia. What route do you think that leaders have to take in order to both respect human rights, but at the same time curb illegal migration?
Well, the honest first question is there really a way which allows for respecting human rights and curbing irregular migrations? Because in many ways, it seemed to be a mission impossible, really, in the sense, if you can ask for being an asylum seeker only once you are on the territory of a European country, the only way in which you can curb the number of refugees is actually persuading transit countries to be illiberal. In other way, European liberalism is paid by transit countries' illiberalism. And I guess Turkey knows it very well from 2015-16. And this is a very problematic issue. In fact, I would say the fact is we are dealing with 2023 crisis with an international law regime built in the 1950s and 60s. That's a serious problem.
So where do you see this crisis leading to? Because they are worried that they are going to see an influx like they saw back in 2015 and 2016, where Syrian refugees were making their way into the bloc. Where do you see this crisis leading to?
Well, first of all, we are going to see if in the next days and weeks an agreement is reached. But this agreement, shouldn't be forgotten, is only focused on emergencies. It's focused mostly on how the EU has to react in case of emergency. Migration is not only emergency. Migration is a very long-term phenomenon. Second, we need to see the actual procedures. Migration policy is a very technical area of legislation and policy. And very often what you declare and what you do can be completely different according to a small comma somewhere. So I would like to read the text before doing any kind of prediction. Mm-hmm. What I can say is that an agreement focused only on emergency very likely will work in the short term, but not in the long term.
All right, Professor Giuseppe Sciortino, thank you so much for being with us here on the NewsHour and sharing that analysis with us.
It's been a pleasure.